Alright. Chapter 5, Whispers of War. Fortunately for the peoples of Europe and the Levant, Subotai had not yet unleashed the full power of his horde on their lands. He knew that Europe was a fortress clad in steel and fire, and that a hasty assault would only shatter his human waves against Europe's firepower. His ambition required patience and method. In the endless steppes of Central Asia, he consolidated his power, gathering more and more clans under his banner, merging bands of raiders into a single disciplined entity. But if the heart of the horde remained sheltered, its fangs were already biting. Sporadic incursions struck the edges of the Levant, harassing caravans, plundering oases, burning isolated villages. For the nomads of the dunes, every day was a battle. They fought like demons emerging from the sand, striking and disappearing from before the enemy could retaliate. Remind you of anything? Penman! Which is badass, by the way. Their knowledge of the desert, its storms and mirages, allowed them to trap the horde in invisible labyrinths where death lurked beyond every dune. Yet they knew that alone they would not hold out forever. Emissaries were therefore sent to the sister tribes of the Sahara, calling for unity against the invader, but the latter, while respecting the cause of the ghosts of the Levant, remained pragmatic. They could not risk their survival for a distant war whose outcome was uncertain. Nevertheless, contingents of mercenaries were recruited, men and women hardened by the desert, ready to sell their weapons and their blood for fair compensation. It wasn't the hoped-for alliance, but it was better than nothing. Meanwhile, in Europe, Hassien continued his mission. He was no longer alone. Other envoys from the desert had joined him, dispatched by chiefs who trusted Jawad al-Farid's judgment. They had taken another route, crossing the Black Sea aboard merchant ships. With them, they had brought a precious asset, a translator, a merchant familiar with negotiations in the West, capable of speaking several local languages. This simple presence changed everything. Before that, Hussein had faced great difficulties. In this cold and grey continent, he was just a mute stranger asking for directions. Asking for directions was a trial. Getting supplies, a fight. Above all, he didn't know who to address. Europe was a patchwork of cities and tribes, each operating by its own rules. Every invisible border he crossed exposed him to new laws, new alliances, and new dangers. But that wasn't the only challenge he faced. Europe was not the desert. The humidity clung to his clothes, chilled his skin, seeped into his bones. He had learned to survive the glacial nights of the desert, the bite of the wind on the dunes, but here the cold was different. It crawled in the ground. It clung to him like a parasite. His first nights bivouacking were a torment. I don't know what bivouacking is. Am I supposed to know what bivouacking is, or is that like a translation error? Or is that like a tribal thing? It says it's a word. I have no idea what biovacking means.
Bivouacking.
Bivouacking. Stay in a temporary camp without cover. It's camping without a tent. Camping without a tent. You learn something new every day, hell yeah. Under the rain, his tent soaked up water, and every awakening was a trial. looked him time to understand. It took him time to understand, to learn to protect himself from this incessant rain, to seek shelter under the twisted roots of trees or in the ruins of abandoned cities, to light fires even when the fire was laden with humidity. Little by little, he adapted like sand adapts to the wind. But Europe wasn't waiting for him. His journey had to continue, for the shadow of the horde grew every day. As the small group advanced further north, the merchant translator explained to him how the tribes of Europe worked. This continent was fragmented into factions like their own, but far more numerous and heavily armed. Certainly, they were on the territory of the tribes of the Eastern Ashes. Their mission was clear: find a local chief, convene a tribal council, and manage to pass their information up to the assembly of Europe's chiefs. From the information gleaned along the journey, all signs pointed them toward a modest trading post in the bank of a wide river. The merchant knew it well. He had often navigated these waters from the Black Sea. This river bore a name that Hussein found harsh and rough to the ear. Dnieper. The Dnieper. Is that how it's pronounced? The Dnieper? 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 Journey had taken a more comfortable turn since they had gotten their hands on a truck. No more nights on the ground. Hussein could now sleep in the back, dry under the waterproof tarp of the old Kamthar. Traveling with him were his old friend Basim, as was Yusuf, Mosa, Nadia, and Rakid, their translator. Inside, as the rain pounded and stretched canvas of the truck. It's supposed to say the? Oh, pounded the stretched canvas of the truck. Fuck me. The decision was lively. The discussion was lively. I can't read. Just fucking kill me. I should just quit. The men, bundling in their heavy desert clothes, which kept them warm in this humid climate, complained like the damned. "Ya, Kra," grumbled Musa, readjusting himself on the bench. This continent is really shit." "You said it," added Yusuf, wiping away a drop of water seeping through a seam in the tarp. "They have rotten weather." "It's not just that," added Nadia, arms crossed. They insult each other's mothers, and no one reacts." She spat on the floor. Libya sub alaya al aquada in Sama to be here sharaf me. It's another people, tempered Basim with a shrug. Was this just like not translated? I'm so confused. What the fuck this is supposed to be? Sounds like something Smokey would type. Don't try to read the sentence in another language. I wasn't sure if this was intentional. Or if the AI just never translated this. It's another people, tempered Basin with a shrug. Another people, repeated Nadia, outraged. Who would let someone else trample on their own mother's honor? She turned her head towards Yusuf. Not really, that's for immersion. Okay. Okay, I wasn't sure. I wasn't 100%, Nyko. If I hadn't translated it, I would have thought that. But it's because I translated it that sometimes it can get fucked up. So that's what I thought, but I just wanted to confirm that before. And that's just them speaking in their language as opposed to, like, English, right? Because they're not English. Or whatever language your language is, which I'm guessing is Spanish. So it could be some ancient dead language. Translated it with someone who speaks Arabic. Oh, so that's actually like them speaking Arabic? Oh, that's even cooler. So then if you know, that's the cool thing, is if like you're an expert in a subject and one of the characters or the theme of the book revolves around that, and you can tell that the person who wrote the book has a deep understanding of that concept because you do, and you see where they did that. Later in the novel, you'll get sentence in Kazakh. Oh, that's so cool. I love that kind of immersion, and I hate that it's kind of missing from books. I purposefully eliminate it from my book in the way that consciousness works. But I use animals with sounds to infer, other languages. Like chocobos going like, or the, you know, the kawoo, 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 or whatever the fuck they do, you know. It's a lot higher pitched than that, right? But it's like it's like a dog's bark, right? It's like you can tell, or a cat's meow. It's like you just know. If you know the animal, you just know. You're like, oh, come on, stop being jealous. You didn't get as much food. You're fat. Shut up. Stop eating so much. You eat half of his food half the time anyways. Fuck. She turned her head to Yusuf. Would you let that happen? The last time it happened, I demanded a duel. Yusuf raised an eyebrow and tapped the hilt of his dagger. As you can see, I'm still here to talk about it.
If a nurse is sick and another nurse nurses the nurse, can the nurse nursing the nurse nurse that nurse the way the nurse wishes to be nursed?
Damn, Mike, that's some powerful shit. It's a question of which nurse is nursing which nurse. Because if we're talking like a Nurse Ratchet, oh shit. But if you're nursing Nurse Ratchet, oh shit. Oh, you wanted me to clean that catheter before I put it in? Oops. Oh, you wanted this. Oh shit, look at that, I spilt it. Oops. Oh god. I'm terrible. I'm a terrible person. Oh god. A heavy silence settled when a sharp click of a bolt being armed echoed in the cabin. All eyes converged on Hussein, who had nonchalantly pulled the lever of his AK-74 SU. He had remained silent until then, leaning against the cold sheet metal of the truck, his gaze lost in the rain-battered night. He slowly raised his head and breathed. I have no mother. A shiver ran through the cabin. But if I had one, the one who insulted her wouldn't do it twice. The engine roared in Europe's populated air. The others had nothing to add. Several days later, the goal of the journey finally appeared on the horizon. Scrapsland. According to Ratchet, this trading post was the beating heart of commerce in the region. Its docks were overflowing with cargoes of scavenged materials, and its market teemed with traders. First obstacle. The city sprawled on the east bank of the river, while they were on the west bank. Hussein observed the black waters of the Dnieper, wide, deep, and lined with makeshift docks, possible to cross without help. They had to pay for a barge to ferry their truck across. A man with a face scarred with stitches collected the payment with a simple nod and let them board. During the crossing, the locals stared at them. 5 travelers stood out in the landscape like shadows emerging from the desert. Their loose clothing, kefiyes, I don't know how to say that, kefiyes, and turbans contrasted with the heavy leather jackets of the inhabitants, sometimes adorned with fur and ballistic protections. Some broke away from their animated discussions for a moment to eye them sidelong. Ratchet unflappable guided them to a bar. The establishment was a mix of sheet metal, recycled wood and rustled metal. I kind of like that's an out of the box way to say it, but I kind of like that. Unflappable. It's definitely unique. And rusted metal. Inside, a muggy head weighed down the air. The yellow light from a few weak bulbs illuminated the makeshift tables where a noisy clientele piled up. The group settled in. A few glances followed them, but the bar's life quickly resumed its course. Lucien raised his glass and brought the drink to his lips. First contact was brutal. A liquid fire surged down his throat, eliciting a surprised hiccup from Basim. But it was Nadia who reacted the most violently. Damn, that's not date alcohol. She spat out a mouthful with a grimace. No, it's moonshine, replied Ratchet, laughing. What? Moonshine? Potato alcohol. They drink it straight from the still. Uncut. Nadia coughed and shook her head. Disgusted. Jamaji. Barbarians, she spat. Hamaji. Barbarians, she spat. Setting down her glass, a hearty laugh erupted behind them. 3 men had approached their table. Burly fellows, dressed in reinforced armor and mismatched military gear. Most massive of the 3 wore an armored poncho, his rifle slung over his shoulder. He sized them up for a moment before speaking. You're not from around here, he said in a deep voice, his accent drawling. Lucien didn't understand a word. To his great surprise, Ratchet burst out laughing as he stood up. Alexander! He exclaimed, revealing his face. The Colossus raised an eyebrow, and a wide smile split his leathered face. Ratchet? The hell are you doing here this season? The merchant turned to his companions, a smirk on his face. Guys, meet Alexander. He's the burgomaster of this post. Lucien narrowed his eyes. What the? The city chief, if you prefer. The 4 travelers exchanged a glance. They didn't understand, but guessed it was a greeting. Salam, they replied in return. Ratchet and Alexander took time to catch up, exchanging news over a drink. Laughter punctuated their reunion, but soon the tone grew more serious. So you can guess I'm not here for business, declared Ratchet, setting down his glass. We need to meet Voivode. Alexander raised an eyebrow. Why? We need to warn your tribal council. The Horde is strengthening day by day. It's no longer a simple distant threat. It won't be long before it sweeps over Europe and the Levant. The Burgomaster crossed his arms, thinking for a moment. Rumors have reached us, but is it that worrying? Ratchet let out a bitter laugh. You can't even imagine. We're already facing repeated incursions in our lands, and no matter how many we take down, more keep coming. It's a tidal wave that knows neither fatigue nor fear. Alexander clenched his jaw. Our voivode, Mikhail Melnichenko, was here a few days ago, but he left for Nova Kiev. We absolutely need to meet him. You must prepare for the invasion, Alexander. You don't have the luxury of ignoring what's coming. The Burgomaster nodded after a moment of silence. I know. I'll have some rangers escort you. They'll lead you to him. Lucien, silent until then, exchanged a glance with Basim. The road wasn't over, but they had just crossed a crucial step. While the travelers from the Levant settled their affairs, Den wandered the streets of Scrapsland, his face sullen. He had just regained full mobility, but his mother still refused to let him go on an expedition. Wait, did we just shift? Hold on. We just shifted perspective, right? I'm guessing in the actual thing there's kind of a split here, and that's just wasn't translated over very well. Like, you know, having like the... I feel like this is abrupt. It ends too soon. There needs to be a goodbye. I feel like. They said farewell in parted ways. Something like that. I don't know. I don't feel like this is the end, right? This should make me feel like this is the end. And I'm like, okay, well, it's done, so now it's another character, right? Or feel like it trails off, or something like that. I feel it would be more... It would just hit that stronger, but that's just me. The road wasn't over, but they had just crossed the crucial step. The travelers from the Levant settled their affairs. Den wandered the streets of Scrapsland, his face sullen. He had just regained full mobility, but his mother still refused to let him go on an expedition. Too premature, she said. He grumbled, frustrated, and scratched his chin, ruffling his nascent beard. That's not what I meant to do. Fuck! Almost a drink. I'm gonna need more drink. More drink. More, please. More. Can I have some more? Some more ads, bitch! I'll never throw some ads at you. We got both them ads. Ain't gonna be no down demder getting no up in her dams be with ads, boy. What you talk about does be that what is. I don't know only what I can, you see. That's how B-Man is, yo. Who say what ads do and to me, I know what speak for. It's not ads, I say, you see what I can do without seeing such abominations before my eyes. Shall they fall ever crescent before the meaning of the word that is upon our lips, so cursed, so evil that it is never to be spoken, yet we speak it. Oh! A heart attack of a word. Alright, we are back. We are back. Alright. He grumbled, frustrated, and scratched his chin, ruffling his nascent beard with an annoyed gesture. Too bad. He was going to see Alice. Arriving at her door, he knocked. "Come in," called a voice from inside. Pushed the door open without suspicion and froze. Alice was in a tub, washing herself. Den turned scarlet and spun around so abruptly he nearly tripped. "Huh? What's wrong with you? It's not the first time you see me naked." Swallowed, his ears reddened. It's just that it's not really the same as before." Behind him, he heard her chuckle before the water splashed as she got out. "It's okay, you can turn around." Slowly, Den pivoted, still crimson. Alice had wrapped herself in a cloth that still clung a bit to her skin. She gave a mischievous smile. "Is that a magazine in your pocket, or are you happy to see me?" Den opened his mouth, closed it, stammered. "It's a magazine," he immediately regretted answering so stupidly. Especially stuttering like an idiot, Alice burst out laughing and disappeared into her room. When she reappeared, dressed in her usual outfit, she still had that playful hair that exasperated him as much as it troubled him. Alice leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a smirk on her face. "What brings you here?" Den shrugged, trying to maintain composure after the embarrassing episode a few minutes ago. "I thought we could grab a bite to eat." Alice arched an amused eyebrow. "Oh, you're inviting me out?" Den looked away, muttering. "You could say that." She let his silence hang before grabbing her jacket from a chair. "Alright, I accept your date." He rolled his eyes but didn't protest. Two friends headed to a mess hall. This establishment aimed to improve the daily fare so as not to eat exclusively canned goods and bland rations. That day, the special was roast wild boar seasoned with spices from the black tea, a rarity, therefore expensive. Dan had saved up and intended to enjoy it. They got their meal and sat at a table, laughing and chatting as if nothing had changed, till Alice, true to herself, opened the ball. You know, you're not discreet. Dan stopped mid-bite, frowned. What do you mean? Alice rested her chin on her hand and fixed him with a falsely innocent look. I can see how you look at me, and every time I look back, you blush and lower your head. Dan felt a shiver run down his spine. He opened his mouth to respond, but no sound came out. Alice giggled and pointed her finger at him. See? Exactly like that. Dan quickly looked away, taking a long sip of water to mask his embarrassment. But it was too late. Alice had already seen through him. He didn't even have time to find or retort before it was time to pay. He was about to do it, but Alice beat him to it. It's on me. What? You haven't been able to work these last 6 months because of your bum leg. Consider this your welcome back gift. On the way back as they walked... On the way back, as they walked side by side, Den's mind was clouded with parasitic thoughts. Trying something. Tell her. Alice? Yes. What are you doing tonight? I'm going to the Drunken Ranger with Sergey. You're going to the bar with Sergey? Yes, Dan frowned. He said nothing and just kept walking. Sergey was older than him, probably 19. Anyway, what was certain was that he was a big guy who towered over him by a head with a very thick beard he hadn't shaved in years. Sergey was known for his inveterate seducer attitude. According to rumors, he'd already slept with half the town. That wasn't Alice's type at all. At least, she wasn't the type to settle for being just a name on a conquest list. Faced with this silence, Alice raised an eyebrow. Does that bother you? Den didn't respond for a few moments, contenting himself with kicking a pebble. No, just... He didn't finish the sentence. Alice observed him with a smirk. You have a problem with Sergey? Not particularly. You made a weird face when I said his name. Den sighed, stuffed his hands in his pockets, and shrugged. Are you jealous? The young man nearly choked. What? No, not at all. Alice stopped and grabbed his forearm to force him to do the same. She fixed him, a smirk on her face. Oh yeah? Yet you're making a funny face. Den grumbled, uncomfortable. Looked away. It's just that... He sighed. Well, do what you want. Alice released him and resumed walking. Yeah, sure. I didn't need your permission. Den shot her a dark look, which only widened her smile. Don't worry. I'm just going for a drink. What do you want? I tell you. He quickened his pace slightly without realizing it, but Alice quickly caught up and walked his level. If you want to keep an eye on me, just come. Den stopped short and stared at her, incredulous. Huh? Alice elbowed him in the ribs. Yeah, idiot. You don't want to leave me all alone with Sergey, right? Dan opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Alice laughed and patted his shoulder before heading back toward her place. See you tonight, then. Dan stood there watching her walk away, his mind muddled. She really just asked him to be the third wheel. The rest of the afternoon passed in a fog of chaotic thoughts. Holed up in his room, Den sat on his bed, elbows on his knees, jaw clenched. I like this train of thought because he's not a very positive person. She's literally saying, come along and make Sergey the third wheel. But he just doesn't see it. Which is, like, very true to his character, right? In a mechanical gesture, he grabbed the revolver on the nightstand and spun the cylinder with his fingertips. What the hell did she expect from him? He felt like he was caught in a game whose rules he didn't understand. Alice knew exactly what she was doing by inviting him after already planning to see Sergey. But why suggest he come, then? An annoyed sigh escaped him. He didn't know what to think. The door opened without warning, and Magda entered the room. What's wrong with you, honey? She stopped short upon seeing the revolver spinning between his fingers. Put that gun down right now. I've already told you not to play with it. Dan looked up at her. Exactly. Yeah. Visibly annoyed before setting the weapon on the furniture with a metallic clink. not a toy, he muttered. Then, stop fiddling with it like it is, she approached, leaning against the doorframe, crossing her arms. Her scrutinizing gaze examined him carefully. You're pulling a face 6 feet long. It's nothing. Denisovich, she insisted in a maternal tone. I know you. You look like a guy who just hit a wall head on. So what's wrong? Dan hesitated a second, then sighed deeply. Alice invited me out. Magda raised an amused eyebrow. And that's supposed to be bad news, Dan pouted, nervously playing with a buckle on his belt. She already had a date with Sergei, he finally let out. I feel like she just suggested I come to hold the candle. He carefully avoided his mother's gaze, but he could feel her amused smile before she even spoke. My dear son, you still have a lot to learn. Dan finally turned his head toward her. A frustrated winkle creased his forehead. What do you mean? Magda shook her head, her smile widening. She's trying to make you jealous, you idiot. She's pushing you to your limits to see how you react. He blinked, as if the information took a moment to make its way to his brain. You think? I'm a woman too, kid. I know what I'm talking about. She sat on the edge of the bed, grabbed the revolver he had left, and spinning the cylinder in turn, as if to give herself something to do. When I met your father, I had a rival. Luda. A bitch who had her eye on him, and your father had Begov always hung out with her without realizing I was interested. Dan listened attentively, surprised by this sudden confession. I had to seduce Caspod to get your father to finally talk to me. Dan's eyes widened. Seriously? Magda burst out laughing. Oh yes, and believe me, I didn't pretend. Dan frowned, still skeptical. But Alice, it's not the same. Magda stood up and patted his shoulder affectionately. Of course it is. It's exactly the same. The difference is you're too stubborn to realize it. She headed to the door, then stopped before leaving. If you want my advice, kid, she's already chosen you. She gave him a wink before disappearing into the hallway, leaving Dan alone with his thoughts. Great way to immediately shift and tell what's going on for the character. Like, that's kind of huge right there, right? He didn't have to go on some self-discovery. He has someone who's very close to him that's always there, that he's previously talked about and mentioned, so it doesn't feel abrupt. It feels like it was meant to be. So, that's kind of the power of, like, setting things up, right? So it doesn't feel abrupt. It feels that's the only way it could be, right? And you know she's done this tons of times before because of the injury and the way he's probably been during that time. So, and it gives even more insight into their relationship, which is really cool. It's like, there is so much going on in this chapter. I love it. He stayed there, silent, digesting every word. Then slowly he fell back onto his bed, staring at the ceiling. Damn. That evening, Dan left his house, his mind troubled. Alice hadn't given a specific time or place, so he went straight to the Drunken Ranger, a bar not far from the market. The place was known as a hangout for rangers and mercenaries seeking warmth and oblivion in alcohol. The inside of the bar was noisy and smoky. Men laughed loudly. Others played cards while drinking moonshine, weapons casually placed on tables or slung over shoulders. Dan ordered a bottle without really thinking and went to sit in a corner, his hood pulled over his head. He waited 15 minutes past. Then he saw her. Alice had just entered, arm in arm with Sergei. Dan immediately felt tension form in his chest. This was no longer just a friendly evening. Sergei wore his usual camouflage jacket, a holster under his arm from which the grip of a pistol protruded. He stood straight, confident, his hand casually placed in the small of Alice's back. Dan slumped in his seat and pulled his hood down further. He wanted to see without being seen. Alice was smiling. She looked at ease, too at ease. Leaning toward Sergei, she played with a lock of her hair. She laughed, a light, spontaneous laugh. Dan felt a ball of anxiety and anger grow in his stomach. He gripped the grip of his VZ by reflex, for realizing his gesture, and immediately removed his hand. Am I going crazy or what? But the worst came when she touched Sergei's hand. Dan looked away and brought the bottle to his lips. He drank a long swig in one go. The burn of the alcohol wasn't enough to calm the storm within him. When Alice and Sergei went out to smoke, Dan hesitated, then followed them. The cool night air slapped him, but he didn't stop. Leaning against the wall, he saw them talking, and Sergei caressed Alice's cheek. She didn't move. She was smiling. Then he kissed her. Dan felt an electric shock course through his body. His stomach twisted, his throat tightened. Alice didn't push him away. When Sergei pulled back, he said something Dan didn't hear. She waved goodbye to him with a smile. Just like that. Just like that. Dan was seething with rage. His blood boiled. Couldn't let this pass. Approached her with long strides, his boots pounding the ground. When Alice saw him, her smile faded immediately. She paled. Just a drink. Huh? He said in a hard voice. Alice didn't respond right away. How long have you been here? She asked, crossing her arms. I got to the bar before you. She raised an eyebrow. You were watching us from the start. Yes. And what were you waiting for to intervene? Dan narrowed his eyes. What? If I invited you, she continued, locking her gaze on him, it's because I hoped it would finally give you the courage to tell me how you feel. Her tone was sharp, but not only. There was anger, disappointment. Dan opened his mouth, unable to respond right away. What do you mean? He stammered. It was with you that I was supposed to leave. Alice took a step forward, her gaze burning with reproach. But you preferred to stay in your corner, saying nothing, doing nothing. Dan felt his heart race. She had hoped for something from him. He tried to salvage it in a hesitant voice. And now? Alice stared at him, then looked away. She sighed. Now? She said, shaking her head. Now you go home, and so do I. Dan felt the ground give way beneath him. Alice. She cut him off with a gesture. I gave you the best chance to declare yourself, and you let it slip. She turned on her heels and walked away, leaving him alone, frozen in the glacial night. Dan opened his mouth to call her, but no sound came out. An old veteran, smoking his cigar nearby, chuckled. Well, kid, you screwed up royally. Dan lowered his head and shamefully headed home. The next morning, Dan was brutally pulled from sleep by a firm hand shaking his shoulder. Groaned and tried to turn over, but his father's deep voice shattered his hope of plunging back into the void of sleep. Get up, kid. Dan opened one eye, still foggy from fatigue. He had slept very little, his head still echoed with the events of the previous night, and his stomach was a lead ball. He didn't want to see anyone. Dad, leave me alone, please. But his father didn't yield. Get up! There's a mission waiting for you. Dan frowned slightly. A mission? Huh? He muttered, trying to sit up. An escort to Nova Kiev. Kiev. It'll clear your head. The information took a few seconds to penetrate his foggy mind. Nova Kiev. A long mission. Far from here. Far from her. For a moment, he almost smiled. Pfft, okay. Finally let out, passing a hand over his face. He got up, quickly dressed, without even taking time to eat, holstered his sidearm, and slung his rifle over his shoulder. Wanted to leave as soon as possible. On the way, his father explained the mission details. This feels abrupt. Unless it has something to do with those mercenaries. So please tell me it has something to do specifically with those mercenaries, and that was the guy who said something to him, and that's how everything ties together. Because that's what I'm expecting, right? On the way, his father explained the mission details. Escort and drive 5 travelers to Nova Kiev, accompanied by 3 other rangers. A simple mission, but one that would keep him busy for several days, or more. Dan clung to that idea. Get away, breathe, clear his mind. There, no one would remind him of what he let slip. He took a breath, and that's like a more foreshadowing, I'm hoping. So good. So good. If this is going where I think it's going, then it's brilliant. Took a breath upon arriving at the rendezvous point. Looking up to scan the convoy members. He immediately spotted Riddell, their medic. Dan knew he had recently completed his surgeon training, which was a major asset for a journey of this scale. Then a guy he didn't know, Boris. Then he laid eyes on the last person, Alice. Dan froze, his breath catching short. Oh, shit! Well, you surprised me, Nyko. fuck? I was even gonna say, or you're gonna surprise me with a good twist. You're leading me to a certain expectation, which is like, at this point, maybe I'm thinking on the wrong branch here. Yup! Fuck! Fuck! His whole plan crumbled in an instant. He wanted to flee Scraps Land. Flee the awkwardness. Flee Alice. And she was there, a few meters away, ready to leave with him. Den clenched his jaws, a wave of frustration twisting his gut. Without a word, he climbed into the truck, deliberately ignoring her gaze. Settled in the back and pulled his hood over his head. Boris took the wheel. The engine started, and with it, a journey that would be anything but an escape. The truck's engine purred softly as they left Scrapsland, moving away from the docks and the market's tumult. Den, sitting in the back against the tarp, pulled his hood over his head and crossed his arms, trying to ignore Alice's presence a few meters away. With a dark gaze, he discreetly scanned the 5 strangers traveling with them. They wore desert-inspired outfits, long coats of thick fabric, reinforced with leather plates and sometimes scavenged metal pieces. All had their faces particularly covered by keffiyehs, or turbans, often leaving only their eyes visible. Some wore talismans of bone or metal around their necks. The first was Hussein bin Farid al-Hamad, their apparent leader. He wore a long, dusty beige coat, a black scarf wrapped around his neck, and a turban of the same color. Sharp gaze observed the surroundings like a predator on the hunt. He carried an AK-47 SU, and a long curved dagger was sheathed on his chest. Behind him was Basim al-Makata, younger, slimmer. His blue turban was tightly wrapped around his head. He carried an old sniper rifle, a weapon that had clearly passed through generations. Then came Yusuf, a colossal with a shaved skull who wore a simple black I can't do this. This is just what I'm going to go with, whether it's true or not. Keffiyeh. Okay, Keffiyeh. Around his neck. He carried an old shotgun, and his armor seemed made of several layers of leather reinforced with metal. Moussa seemed more discreet. He was dressed in lighter, almost white clothes, and carried an assault rifle with unknown markings worn away. Piercing, elusive eyes gave the impression he observed everything without being seen. Finally, Nadia, the only woman in the group. Her red keffiyeh contrasted with the dull tones of the others, and she wore a dagger at her hip. Her lively gaze shifted from Den to Alice with a slightly mocking glint of interest. After an hour on the road, Rakid, their translator, started the conversation by translating Hussein's words. Hussein asked if they've traveled this road recently. He wants to know if there are any particular dangers. Den shrugged, his dry tone betraying his mood. Nothing unusual. Occasional raiders, some stray beasts. Nothing a good shooter can't handle. Alice, sitting nearby, interjected in a falsely light tone. Ah, that's right, you're an outstanding shooter, aren't you? But you still need the courage to pull the trigger at the right moment. Ooh! Oh man, she's so mean! I love it! Den turned his head slightly toward her, his gaze hardening. Yeah? Mostly, you have to avoid hesitating too much, or someone takes your place. Rakid blinked and hesitated a moment before translating the conversation to the others. He had sensed the underlying tension in the exchanged words. Basim, who had followed the exchange, let out a slightly amused whistle and whispered something discreetly to Nadia in Arabic. She nodded slowly, a smirk on her face. Al-na shadu ard wajizwak. Are we witnessing a courtship display? She said in a low voice, her eyes sparkling with amusement. Den didn't understand, but he saw the other ghosts of the Levant exchange a knowing glance. Den frowned. What did she say? Oh, nothing important, replied Rakid with a smirk. Nadia, amused, crossed her arms and fixed Alice what? Fixed her gaze on Alice. Hal Tahib Boohoo, she said in Arabic with a slightly teasing tone. Alice looked at her warily, then shot a dark look at Rashid. What did she just say? Rashid cleared his throat, visibly embarrassed. She asked if you love him. Alice opened her mouth, then thought better of it. She crossed her arms and turned her head towards the outside of the truck, watching the road go by. Tsk. You have funny ways of having fun. Den remained silent, but his fist clenched slightly on his thigh. Musa, silent until then, whispered a remark in Arabic to Nadia. She burst out laughing. He said that at this rate you'll end up fighting before the end of the trip. Den rolled his eyes and sank deeper into his seat. This trip was going to be very long. After several days on the road, the convoy came within sight of Nova Kiev. Dawn was beginning to pierce the thick cloud cover, painting the horizon with reddish glows that reflected the remnants of an ancient world. Nova Kiev stood before them like a bastion of surviving humanity, strange amalgam of fallen modernity and post-apocalyptic adaptations. First striking element when approaching the city was the massive and irregular silhouette of its enclosure, built from recovered concrete slabs, rusted armor plates, and cascades of carcasses of military vehicles. The improvised wall testified to the brutal necessity of self-defense. Here and there, makeshift turrets mounted on scavenged metal scaffolds scanned the horizon, their heavy machine guns ready to take down anyone attempting a hostile approach. The great gate of Nova Kiev was flanked by two gigantic steel containers welded together, forming a mobile barrier. In front of the entrance, a line of travelers, merchants, and rangers patiently waited their turn to be searched by the guards. The latter wore outfits marked by ashes and dust. Composite uniforms mixing military remnants and makeshift gear. Some sported NBC suits, a sign that certain areas of the city were still exposed to contaminations. Den glanced at Nova Kiev's skyline. Behind the walls, the ruined skyscrapers of the old city rose like mutilated giants, their steel skeletons twisted by time and wars. But at the foot of these ruins, life persisted. New buildings had been constructed from the debris, stacked on top of each other in a controlled architectural anarchy. Improvised bridges of metal and wood connected some structures, and homemade neon signs indicated the presence of markets, bars, and residential areas. The convoy stopped near the checkpoint. A guard in composite armor, his face hidden behind a gas mask, approached and knocked at the trunk's door. Business or passage? He added in a voice muffled by his mask's filter. Rashid replied immediately, putting out a folded paper that he handed to the guard. Diplomatic mission. We need to meet Voivode Mikhail Melnichekno. Fuck. Chekno. Chenko. Melnichenko. Holy fuck. Yeah, no, I'm just... fucking retard.
Melenchenko.
Melenchenko. God, you could tell I'm fucking tired. When I can read properly. What? No. Fuck. Melenchenko. The guard nodded slowly and signaled to a colleague. Slavic name are not easy for English native. Yeah. But once you get it, once I get it, I can say names. It's like it's just a memorization, right? The latter approached, examining the truck's cargo with a suspicious eye, before finally raising a hand as a signal. You can pass. Go see the steward near the central market. He'll tell you where to find the voivode. Woo! With a metallic screech, the great gate opened slowly, revealing a vibrant heart of Nova Kiev. As soon as they crossed the gates, a cacophony of sounds and smells overwhelmed them. The narrow, winding streets were lined with merchants hawking their wares with hoarse cries. Spare parts, scavenged weapons, rationed food, and objects from another time. The air was laden with a mix of gasoline, heated metal, and grilled meat. Typical olfactory signature of large cities. Side streets stretched out in a labyrinth, some cluttered with debris, while others were covered with worn tarps, forming protection against the weather. Everywhere, electrical cables hung between buildings, powering old CTR screens broadcasting official messages and safety warnings. Through the crowd, Den, Alice, and the ghosts of the Levant made their way under the curious gaze of passersby. That would definitely make me want. Yeah, no. You could put a gun to my head and I'd just say pull the trigger. I'm not even gonna try. I'll be right back. Even for you? Yeah, I could definitely see that being on the upper end of... How would you even... How would you even... How would we even? Let's find out how we would even. But the TTS is fucked because it's broken.
Vladislav Jervanovich Niajevsky.
Yep, nope. Okay, now spell that. Three, two, one, choke! Okay. Through the crowd, Dan, Alice, and the ghosts of Levant made their way under the curious gaze of passers-by. Fuck, it's huge! Whispered Musa, impressed. Hussein remained silent, analyzing every detail with caution. It's a real anthill, commented Basim. Rakid, accustomed to such cities, signaled them to move forward. Follow me. We'll go straight to the steward. They passed in front of a huge concrete building, once a shopping center, now converted into an administrative quarter and trading hub. It was there the steward, an old man with gray hair named Gavril Sokolov. That's easier to say. Gavril Sokolov was located. He welcomed them with a tired but attentive look. Strangers requesting an audience with the voivode. It must be serious, he observed the ghosts of Levant with a mix of curiosity and respect. You come from far, I suppose? Lucien stepped forward and nodded. Very far, and we bring news that could well determine the future of your people and ours. Gavril narrowed his eyes, looking grave. In that case, follow me. Mikhail will want to hear you immediately. As the group set off toward the leader's quarter, Den felt a gaze on him. Alice, walking beside him, had that thoughtful look he knew well. What? He grumbled. She shook her head with a smirk. I was just wondering, didn't you want to flee Scraps land to clear your head? Den sighed, running a hand through his hair. So what? Alice shrugged, mischievous. You landed right in the middle of a plot to save Europe. Congratulations. Den rolled his eyes and muttered. Yeah, great. Group disappeared into the alleys of Nova Kiev, ready to meet the voivode and face the coming storms. Group advanced through the alleys of Nova Kiev, guided by Gavril Sokolov, the city's steward. The tension was palpable, especially among the ghosts of the Levant, who scanned their environment with mistrust. For them, every street corner was a potential ambush, every lingering gaze a sign of imminent threat. When they reached the building of Voivode Mikhail Melnichenkov, two heavily armed guards barred their way. Both wore reinforced bulletproof vests, well-maintained assault rifles, and helmets with lowered visors. One of the guards, a colossus with a red beard, raised his hand. No one enters armed. Deposit your weapons. Den, Alice, and the Rangers complied without argument, removing their belts, drawing their handguns, and placing them slowly on a metal table next to the checkpoint. Rudel, always pragmatic, even pulled out his surgical scalpel, giving the guards a blaze look. Is this a weapon too? He said with a smirk. The guard grunted and nodded, but when it came to the men from the Levant, things got complicated. Sen took out his bolt-action rifle and his AK-47 74 SU, then placed them carefully on the table. Basim, Maso, Yusuf, and Nadia did the same, depositing their firearms and ammunition in a heavy silence. But when it was time to hand over their daggers, they didn't move. Guards exchanged a glance upon seeing that each ghost of the Levant kept their bladed weapon attached to their belt, hand resting on the blade of it, on the hilt, in an unconscious gesture of defiance. The red-bearded colossus stepped forward, extending his hand toward Hussein. The knives, too. An icy silence fell over the group. Hussein didn't respond. His gaze, as black as the desert night's, fixed the guard with an unsettling intensity. His fingers tightened on the hilt of his dagger, engraved with ancient symbols. No. The guard frowned. Those are weapons. They stay here. This time Nadia spoke. No. She repeated in a tone sharp as a blade. Basim stepped closer, slightly, his keffieh hiding an amused smile. You're asking a man to separate from his breath, Musa added in a mocking tone, or a shadow to no longer follow its bearer. The guards exchanged perplexed looks. Rakid, who had anticipated this reaction, sighed and approached. It's a matter of honor, he explained calmly. The daggers aren't weapons to them. They're an extension of their being. Den watched the scene in silence, arms crossed. You can always retrieve them on the way out, grumbled the guard, visibly annoyed. But Lucien slowly shook his head. We do not enter unarmed. The tone was calm, final. A heavy silence settled, and everyone felt the tension rise a notch. Soldiers of the tribes of the Ashes were not the type to accept such a challenge, but neither were the men of the Levant. Nadia murmured discreetly in her native language, looking at Basim and Mosa. Basim stifled a chuckle. Den, who had observed the exchange with a hint of amusement, turned to Rakid. What did she say? Rakid smiled, looking amused. She's wondering if you're going to bare your claws or just growl into the void. Alice nearby pretended to cough to hide a smile. Den shot a dark look at Rakid, then turned to the guards. Listen, you already have their rifles and pistols. Do you seriously think they're going to assassinate your voivode with a fucking knife? Colossus glared at him. Those are the orders, Den sighed. And I'm telling you that if you insist, we'll spend the night discussing who has the most honor in this room. Crossed his arms, provocative. The guard remained silent for a moment. He didn't want to back down, not in front of strangers. But finally he sighed, then turned to Gravel. The steward thought for a moment, assessing the group, and finally nodded. Let them keep them. Colossus gritted his teeth, but acquiesced. Let them keep them. But let them know if they move a finger wrong, I'll plug them myself. Lucien, still impassive, slowly inclined his head. We have not come as enemies. The ghosts of the Levant entered, daggers at their sides, their gazes proud and unshakable. They had barely crossed the threshold when Nadia, in a mocking tone, whispered in Arabic, Well, I think we've won our honor duel. Mosa nodded, amused. We'll see if these Europeans are worthy of listening to us. Den followed them with his gaze, then turned to Alice, who, as always, had an enigmatic smile at the corner of her lips. I have a feeling this is going to be long, he muttered. She shrugged with amusement. Oh, it's only just beginning. The heavy doors of the council chamber opened with a creak of rustled metal. The interior of the building was a curious mix of scavenged technology and martial tradition. The walls were lined with ancient banners, remnants of the old world and the heritage of the tribes of the Ashes. Weapons from another age, bolt-action rifles, rusted swords, battle axes were displayed as trophies on massive wooden supports. The back of the room, on an improvised platform, Mikhail Melnichenkov, voivode of Nova Kiev, awaited them. He was a massive man, his face weathered by wind and war. His thick beard was streaked with gray strands, and his bearskin coat gave him the air of a lord of the desolate lands. At his belt hung a Makarov pistol and a long shushka, a finely decorated Cossack sword. He looked up at the visitors, scrutinizing the rangers and the warriors of the Levant with a curiosity tinged with caution. So, these are them, he asked in a deep voice. Gavril, the steward, nodded. The envoys from the Levant, my lord. They bring a message of importance. Mikhail straightened in his seat, placing his two enormous hands on the armrests of his carved wooden chair. He sized up the group for a moment before finally pointing his chin at the leader of the foreign delegation. Hussein bin Farid al-Hamoud. Is that right? Hussein stepped forward, his gaze cold and assured. That's correct, Voivode Mikhail. Voivode Mikhail nodded slowly and glanced at the other warriors from the Levant. They say your people don't speak lightly, so speak. What justifies us listening to you? Hussein exchanged a brief glance with Rakid, who positioned himself at the side to translate. He took a deep breath before responding. I come to warn you of a threat that could annihilate everything you've built here. Mikhail crossed his arms, skeptical. Another threat, he growled. Plains have been burning under raiders for decades, and we're still standing. Why would this be different? Hussein clenched his fists. This isn't a simple band of raiders. He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. All eyes were on him. It's the horde of Subutai, the Falcon. A shiver ran through the assembly. Even Mikhail, battle-hardened, tensed slightly. Murmurs erupted among the warriors in the room. Rumors interjected. It's hard to do this in the translation without the full quotes. For like people speaking. Rumors, interjected a counselor seated not far from the voivode. We've heard this name before, but no one has seen this horde. Mikhail dismissed that statement. We have seen it. 20 years ago, it crashed against our defenses. Mikhail leaned forward slightly, his eye attentive. And what do you want us to do? Hussein straightened, his voice firm. We must unite our forces. If we remain divided, we'll be crushed like sand under a storm. Mikhail frowned. You're coming to ask us to prepare for war. I'm coming to tell you that it's already here. Silence fell over the room. Den, Alice, and the other rangers exchanged sidelong glances. Finally, Mikhail took a deep breath before slowly standing. You come all this way, crossing dead lands and ravaged plains. What you say cannot be ignored. Placed a hand on the pommel of his sword and fixed Hussein with straight in the eyes. But our people don't rise for words. We fight for those who prove their worth. Turned to his men. Prepare the council. Summon all the voivodes. If they want war, they must first see if we have what it takes to win it. He turned back to Hussein. Until then, you and your men are our guests. But know one thing, son of the desert, he pointed. He approached and murmured in a low, threatening voice, if you've lied to us, I'll be the first to run you through with my blade. Hussein didn't flinch. Then listen well, voivode. It talks! Hey! Toxic! What's up, Hellcat? How are you? I know I haven't been on this late in a while. Been really the Thanksgiving weekend. My aunt is over for a week. Yeah, I had to do a bunch of shopping. So I've been slightly, lacking on the longer streams, let's say. Oh, it was fantastic, other than my nephew, but... What did I buy? A brand new sketchbook. And this was our drawing we did yesterday. We made a teddy bear. And we did like a forest scene. So yeah, super stoked about that. Now we can actually see. Only I couldn't get graphite. Couldn't find graphite. The art section was pretty bare at Walmart because it's like the only place that has like a craft section, and it's like around Halloween and everyone's doing like Halloween like projects for like school and stuff like that. So everyone's coming from basically all the towns around town to yeah, get stuff there. But yeah, so hope you're doing good. We are currently reading Nyko's story. Really, really long chapter, but hey, we're doing pretty solid here. So it's a post-apocalyptic kind of Mad Max type story. He approached in turn until he was a few centimeters away from the Cossack giant. Gonna have my lunch now? Hell yeah, Hellcat. I gotta eat some fucking food. I'm fucking starving. Always good when there's food. Yeah, we have leftover turkey and we turned it into turkey soup. So we have like amazing turkey soup, and I still have half a thing of crackers left over for another bowl of soup. Because it usually turns out about half a pack of crackers for a bowl of soup. Works out really nicely. My mom makes amazing soup. She's not the greatest cook, but she makes amazing soup. He approached in turn until he was a few centimeters from the Cossack giant. If we're right and you don't listen to us, his voice lowered, then the horde will come, and it will be the one you run you through with the blade. What's your favorite soup? Do you count chili as soup? Or is like chili just its own thing? I think this is a philosophical question. Chili's a type of soup, right? But it's like specific? That's a really if I can't choose chili, I really don't know. Creamy. Oh, I could. Yeah, okay. If you can't choose chili, creamy mushroom soup would probably be yes. Probably be my second go-to. Dipped with tuna. Tuna sandwich dipped in either creamy tomato soup or creamy mushroom soup. To die for. You get your red sauce and your white sauce all in one. It depends on what you're craving on the day, right? So good. You can drink that shit with French toast. Oh, that sounds so good. That sounds so good. Dip. Yes. Yes. Oh my god. Oh, you're making me so hungry, Hellcat. I'm hungry too. I gotta finish this story. French toast. French toast is when you take bread and you basically take an egg and you swirl up an egg like you would with an omelet. You dip the bread in the egg, soak the bread in the egg, and then fry and toast the bread. So it's like you're eggifying your bread. And then, like, I always add, like, cinnamon. I'll add, garlic bread works, too. Yep. I'll add vanilla extract. I'll add, like, baking sugar. Stone, true. French toast slaps. You know what's good? We have a waffle maker. So I'll make, really, never saw someone eat this here. Really? Oh, it's so good. Slap that toast. True, Hellcat. So, we have a waffle maker. So, you very lightly make the waffles. Then you French toast the waffles. Then you hard cook the waffles. It's fucking amazing. Homemade French toast waffles. Sausages, too. And you can, like... put stuff inside of them too, so you can like cut them open in like the first phase and put in like mushes of like whipped cream and like blueberries in my case because I'm allergic to most fruits, or strawberries or whatever. Had a waffle burger too. Have it with steak. Oh, that sounds so good. I love steak. For the breakfast, yeah, chocolate cornflake with hot chocolate. Huh, that's interesting, Nyko. Turning hot chocolate is good in winter. Yes. It's -5 outside for me. So it's fucking cold. It's been snowing the last 3 days. Yay! Winter! Just the way that it is, right? We're getting into it. It doesn't feel like that. And I'm like, like, now that winter is hit, I'm like, oh god, I don't want to go back to work in November, so I might just take the winter off. I mean, especially if, like, we've been popping the fuck off, right? So, I have a confession. Yes, Nyko, go! I can see the Eiffel Tower through my window. That is pretty great. What is Nesquik? Me too! I saved 7 annual leaves. Ah. Yes. Planning to take a leave during Christmas. Yeah. It's just Christmas is such a hectic time, right? Nesquik is a brand of cornflake. Nesquik to me is a chocolate syrup. But it's a brand. Like Nesquik, Nestle, milkshake. Yeah. This is the shit I grew up with. Like, I could literally go downstairs and grab one of these. Nestle, Nesquik. It's literally the shit. It is so fucking good. That is what you do. I like strawberry cornflakes. I'm down with that. I'm allergic to strawberries, Hellcat, so you know, I can't say anything. We have Kellogg's here. We have Kellogg's here too. We have Nestle, Kellogg's, Tim Hortons. And then there's like the no-name Great Value and whatever ones you have. I always ate my Nesquik cornflakes and my Nesquik hot chocolate. See, Nyko, now you're just you're winning at life, bro. I never really cared for chocolate. I'm not a chocolate fan. I don't really have a sweet tooth. I'm a subtle taste kind of person. But it is what it is. Kale stepped back, sizing up Hussein one last time before bursting into a deep laugh. Good, then let's see if your people speak true. He snapped his fingers and the guard stepped aside. Rest! Assembling the council will take time. As the group left the room, Nadia whispered discreetly in Arabic. Strawberries are, yeah, I'm allergic to, like, strawberries, almonds, apples, some types of grapes, pecans, cheese croissant. Now, for the morning, I'm eating a croissant, which is Australian, not French. I don't trust the world anymore, Nyko. I don't trust the world. We also have croissant sandwiches. We turn croissants into sandwiches. That's what I do. They're great buns for sandwiches. You can use them for breakfast sandwiches like bagels, too. It's really cool. We've just stirred up a hornet's nest. Basim nodded, a smirk on his face. And now we'll see who gets stung first. Hussein and his companions were escorted to their quarters. Modest rooms in an old building reinforced with metal and wood. A vestige of the old world. The city of Nova Kiev was a striking mix of ingenuity and brutality. I don't have a sweet tooth. I can appreciate it every once in a while, though, but it's not something I crave. Like, my brother bought me an insane amount of chocolate for my birthday. My birthday was at the beginning of July. There's probably 25 chocolate bars left over that I just haven't eaten. And there's like more scattered on the ground and around in random places. Now, if they were Wonder Bars, I'm not really the biggest fan of Crunches or Butterfingers. But there are these, which aren't too bad. The Oreo Cadbury's. You know, if you're having like one tiny little piece off of it, like a day, like it's not bad, right? It's just kind of gets overwhelming. I'm literally gonna be handing these out at Halloween. That was my plan. I'm like, if I don't eat them, I'll just hand them out at Halloween. You can't complain you got like a full-size chocolate bar. And like, I live in a small town, so we'll probably only get 20 kids come to the house. Gutted buildings had been shored up with armor plates, ramparts of charred vehicles served as barriers, and everywhere echoed the streets of forges and training shots. They had succeeded in the first step. Voivode Mikhail agreed to convene the Council of Voivodes. But it would take time. Hussein sat on the rudimentary bunk assigned to him, his mind racing. Basim leaned against the wall, crossed his fingers. We've gone further than I thought. Yes, but the hardest part begins, replied Hussein, drawing his dagger from its sheath to inspect the edge. On the other side of the room, Rakid and Nadia discussed in low voices. Do you think they really believe us? She asked. They believe us enough not to slit our throats on the spot. That's already a good start, replied Rakid with a shrug. The next day, the sound of horses and engines woke Hussein. Try butterscotch churros? Oh, I hate butterscotch! Why would you ruin a good churro with butterscotch? That sounds evil, Hellcat. I can't stand butterscotch. I don't know why people think it's good. Cinnamon every day of the fucking week. 24/7, 12, 365. 12, 7, 52. Frickin'. Woof. You know. Butterscotch. Oh shit! You didn't just do that. Fuck! He opened his eyes slowly and dressed quickly. Outside, he saw the emissaries of Nova Kiev preparing to leave. Some were going horseback, others on motorcycles, rode old trucks, protected by iron plates. All had the same goal, to carry the voivode's call to the other chiefs of the east. Motherfucking lyrical wordsmith in it. True Stone, absolutely. Absolutely. Fuck ads. We're in the middle of ads, guys. How do we get out of ads? I can't escape the ads. You can't escape the ads. It's a world of ads in a world of ads. By ads. For ads. To ads. By ads. For ads. To ads. We ads. Do ads. Be ads. You ads. Me ads. We ads. They ads. Do ads. Yay. We love ads. They power the economy. They help us preserve ourselves. Ads are good. You want ads? Don't feel like you can pull away. Watch those ads. Feel like they're in your bones. Then go buy our product and all your money is now gone. It's ours. Thank you. Here's your product. But now you have to pay. Oh, look at that. You don't have money, so now you don't have access to product that you bought. Ha ha, what a scam I am. I know what to do. There's no regulations for this. This is great. I know what to do. Let's go have some ads. Well, I mean, what? That's a bad, okay, guys? That's a bad. We want to talk. Screw ads! Down with ads! Oh. If I could, I would turn them off. But apparently I can't. Because if I turn them off, you'll get a pre-roll. And if you get a pre-roll, you might get 6 minutes of ads before you even get to start the stream. And that will absolutely kill the stream. Plus, I want as minimal ads as possible. So if I could, I would turn them off. But the system doesn't allow you to. Oh, but the system doesn't allow you to! Well, you can reprogram the system, right? Of course, I made the system. Well, then reprogram the system. Yeah, but I literally wish, Hellcat, that you didn't have to have ads or pre-rolls, or anything until you were partner. Affiliate just meant if you want to, you can run ads. I hate the forcing pre-rolls on people. Oh, to me, it's such a cannibalistic way of, like, approaching the lower end of the content creators on your, like, you know, your platform. But everyone knows the only way to discover on Twitch is to have views. Thankfully, at least the category I'm in, I can hit the top page. I'll always be on the front page, and I can hit near the top line as long as I have between, like, 8 and 12 viewers, generally, right? Because most people have between 6 and 15 viewers in the writing category. I mean, there's some exceptions to that, and then some extremes to that, too. But that's basically the generality of it, right? Especially like at this time of night. But there's a lot more like German, French, like European, because it's like the morning for them, right? Even though it's like 1 o'clock in the morning for me. Okay, we're almost done the chapter. We're almost done. Let's get it. It's 8:10 here in Ireland. Makes sense, Stone. It's a good time because you guys are like 7 hours ahead of us. Midnight for me. Hell yeah. We're getting up there in time, though. That's for sure. Kale stood on an improvised platform overseeing the preparations. When he saw Hussein and his companions, he slowly descended the steps and approached. In 3 weeks, we'll have an answer. All will come. Hussein nodded. There was nothing else to do but wait. The days passed in a tense atmosphere. The messengers from Nova Kiev traversed the plains and dead forests, riding day and night on their motorcycles or trucks, carrying the summons orders to the voivodes of the tribes of the eastern Ashes. Rumors of a gathering of this magnitude had aroused concern well beyond the borders of Nova Kiev. Everyone knew that one did not convene a council of voivodes lightly. Such a call meant a grave threat looming over their lands. When the day finally arrived, the city was invaded by caravans, scavenged, armored vehicles, horsemen, and motorized squads. The banners of the different tribes snapped in the wind, their symbols hand-painted on faded fabric or metal plates. Central square of Nova Kiev had been rearranged for the occasion. An immense tent of thick canvas, supported by scavenged steel poles, served as the council chamber. Torches and makeshift generators lit the interior, casting moving shadows on the rugged face of the war chiefs settling in. The voivodes arrived one after another, escorted by their guards. Each was a veteran, forged by years of war and survival. Some wore heavy capes of wolf or bearskin, others composite armors patched together with pieces from the old world. All were armed. In the center of the room, Mikhail Melnichenko, voivode of Nova Kiev, stood tall, dominating the scene. When everyone was finally seated, he spoke in a grave voice. "Brothers, sisters, you know why we are gathered." A heavy silence settled. Mikhail swept the assembly with his gaze, lingering on the most influential chiefs. "We have all heard the whispers, the rumors from the east. A force is gathering in the steppes." A voivode with graying hair, his face marked by deep scars, crossed his arms. "These rumors have reached us for months, but this time they come with faces and names." He fixed Hussein and his companions with a sharp gaze. "So, son of the desert, speak. Tell us why we should listen." Hussein, who had stayed in the background until then, stepped forward. He took a deep breath before speaking. "Lords of the East, I am Hussein bin Farid al-Hamoud of the Banu al-Sariq clan. I have crossed the dunes, the rivers, and the dead lands to warn you. The horde of Subutai the Falcon is on the march." 1:10 p.m. here? So you're 12 hours off. Are you Australian, Hellcat? That's what I would assume with that time gap. But then again, I think it might even be later in Australia than that. Murmurs erupted immediately. Another voivode, A colossus with a braided beard slammed his fist on the table. We've heard this name before, the Horde, again. But it's not the first time a raider chief gathers bands under one banner. Why would this time be different? Lucien fixed him with intensity. Because we have seen it. Because we have fought their scouts. Because we have lost brothers and sisters to them. He let the words sink in, then continued. Subutai is not a simple war chief. He's not an opportunistic bandit seeking a coup. He doesn't scatter his troops like wild beasts. He disciplines them. He organizes them. An older voivode, with eyes cold as steel, nodded slowly. Our scouts have seen strange things these last months. Groups of raiders who no longer fight each other, who obey orders. Caravans attacked with precise tactics. Mikhail nodded. And now the warriors of the Levant come to tell us that the Horde is becoming an army. Yes. And if you don't believe us, then look at what we've brought. Lucien nodded, and Basim pulled from his satchel a dented steel plate, painted with a black symbol. A cry arose among the voivodes. The banner of the falcon. They had fought against it. 20 years earlier, silence fell over the assembly. Lucien, I love pulling that. I love that. They waited for the entirety of it to be like, okay, but we have this. And everyone's like, oh, shit. No one's seen that in 20 years. Fuck. That is such an ace in the hole power play. I absolutely fucking love it. It's like, oh yeah, hey, yeah, and it like matches the demeanor of the character perfectly, where he's just like, I knew the whole time you guys were gonna accept this. I wasn't worried at all. Let's fucking stop these crazy sons of bitches. Lucien continued, capitalizing on the impact of the revelation. You think these are just rumors? We've already lost lands. Our caravans are hunted. We resist, but they keep coming back, more numerous. He advanced, his gaze burning. And I don't think they'll stop at the dunes of the Levant. Another voivode, one of the most skeptical until then, rubbed his beard, his gaze darkened. If they're as numerous as you say, it's not a question of numbers. It's a question of time, interjected Mikhail. He fixed each of his peers, his voice thundering like a storm. We repelled the Horde 20 years ago, but if it returns stronger, we must be ready. The voivode with graying hair nodded. We must rise. We cannot do it alone. We'll need all of Europe. Mikhail crossed his arms. Then the question is there. Do we rise and prepare for war, or do we stay behind our walls, hoping the storm passes? A long silence settled. Then a voivode placed his hand on the table. The tribes of the ashes will fight. Mikhail exhaled slowly, satisfied. Nice. We are going to war! Fuck yeah. Great fucking story. So excited to read more of it, Nyko. These really long and intrepid chapters are like so alluring. We get like the short punches and stuff, but there's nothing like a sitting back and just fucking going hard on a single chapter. Cry havoc and let's slip the frogs of war. No worries, Nyko. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You surprised me and you capitalized on pretty much everything. The only thing I can think of is like transitions between point of view, which most likely you do, and that's just a translation and format error. So I'm not even going to mention that. But yeah, tie everything together. Everything is made clear. We've completely given us, okay, here's the enemy, here's the scope, here's how people feel about it, and here's what we're going to do about it. Now it's the how are we going to do what we want to do. The gathering of everyone across Europe, being like a United Kingdom, United States of Europe kind of thing. I love that. Bringing all the tribes together. I can't wait to see what happens, Nyko. And now, Sean, are you ready?